we have Wienerbrød. Don't know what that is? That's what the word calls the Danish. So we start with the Wienerbrød. For this I have about 480 grams of flour, in which I add 375 grams of cold butter, as cold as possible. You're supposed to cut the butter to the size of a kidney bean, or smaller. Now, we combine this, but ever so slightly. This is a quicker way of making puff pastry, almost exclusive to Denmark and the other Scandinavian countries. With this we add about 100 grams of sugar, salt, about 10 grams, and 10 grams of ground cinnamon, and lightly mix everything together once again. Now we make a well in the center and pour in about 150 milliliters of milk, 150 milliliters of heavy cream, and we crack in 2 eggs. Bring it all slightly together and crumble in 30 grams of yeast. And now make this into a dough. Dust the surface with some flour, bring out all your dough. Once it all comes together, scrape all the sides, wrap it up in some plastic. And now we chill this in the fridge for about 4 whole hours. We make an icing that goes on top of the Wienerbrød. So for this, we use 100 grams of icing sugar, and make sure you sieve it properly. And now to this icing sugar, we add about 50 milliliters of milk, 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla essence. You can add any essence you want, mix it all together. When the icing is nice and smooth, take it out in another bowl and chill this in the refrigerator. So the next thing we make is the cherry jam. On a high flame, we put a good amount of cherries, half the amount of sugar, and about 1/4 the amount of water, and let it all cook. Now the cherries have been halved and the pip has been removed. Cherries are quite tart and sweet at the same time, so we don't need any lime juice in this. Put in your sugar thermometer and wait for it to reach 105. The jam is quite done, and now we decant it into a jar. So 4 hours have passed, and the pastry for the Wienerbrød has risen quite okay. So it's time to give it 3 folds, though this time, unlike the French breakfast where we made the croissant out of the same puff pastry, we're not going to wait between each fold. We're going to give 3 folds one after the other and then rest it. We wrap this once again and chill it in the fridge for 30 minutes. This pastry is chilled and rested. Let me just split this in half. There we go. If you notice, you can see the amazing amount of layers that have been formed. We take the first half and roll it out to form a long rectangle. When you roll it thin enough, take the edges off, they're irregular. We cut strips, not cut out, but just cut strips on the sides. And repeat the same. Now we spread some of our lovely cherry jam in the center. It's important to make sure that your jam has cooled down, absolutely. Let's fold these over to make braids. So with these offcuts, I've made little mini Danish rolls, and I'm going to put some dried cranberries in them. Now that this is puffed up a little bit, not too much, but before we do that, we must egg wash it. So now 15 minutes in the oven at 200 degrees. So now that the Wienerbrød are done, let's put some icing on these